Greetings, brothers and sisters from George, South Africa, Western Cape. It's been a while since I posted my previous video, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. I hope and trust that the Lord keeps you in the palm of His hand and you are blessed of the Lord. Today I have an very interesting topic. Is it possible for a believer to reap 100 times, hundredfold crop in times of famine? I go straight to the Gospel of Matthew. In chapter 13, the Lord is saying in verse 8 the following: Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 what was sown. This is the famous parable of the four soils. And the Lord here was speaking about the good soil. It would produce either 30, 60, or 100. And the highest was 100. And there was no talk about in times of famine. It was a talk about a parable of a day-to-day life that the Israelites understood as to be normal time of harvesting. What constitutes a good crop, 30, 60, or 100-fold. Now I'll take you straight to Isaac in Genesis chapter 26. And by the way, I'm reading from the New International Version Bible. And in chapter 26, verse 1, it says, Now there was a famine in the land, besides the earliest famine of Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. For those who are familiar with the story of Isaac and Abraham and Jacob, the Abimelech, king of the Philistine, was friendly towards Abraham, and Abraham stayed with him and was under his protection. Now Isaac lives in the land of Canaan, and famine comes upon the land just like in Abraham's time. And you remember what Abraham did. He went to Egypt. That's what we do in times of need. We go to a nation that is powerful, that it has reserves for us to buy food. And Egypt at the time was that nation. So what happened? In verse 2, when that happened, the Lord, verse 2 reads, The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Verse 3, Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. And it goes on to say other things about the blessing upon Isaac on account of his father Abraham. Now, this is rather interesting. Firstly, he tells Isaac to stay, not to go to Egypt, where most likely there was food to eat. Secondly, he tells him to stay in the land and that he will bless him. Thirdly, he tells him to wait for the Lord's direction. Now, what happened next? Okay, let's read a little bit further and see. In verse 7, I read, so in verse 6, it says, So Isaac stayed in Gerar, that is where the Philistines were. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, She's my sister, because he was afraid to say she's my wife. He thought the men of this place might kill me. on account of Rebekah because she's beautiful. When Isaac, verse 8, when Isaac had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from the window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. Verse 9, so Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, she's really your wife. Why did you say she's my sister? Isaac answered, because I thought I might lose my life on account of her. Then Abimelech said, verse 10, what is this you have done to us? On one of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. So Abimelech gave orders to all the people, anyone who molests this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Now, why I read this short paragraph is to understand what happened next. He did not go to Egypt, but he settled by his friend, the friend of his father Abraham, amongst the Philistines. And Abimelech gave him protection. But now watch what happens next in verse 12. Isaac planted crops in that land, and the same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. How about that? He obeyed the Lord. He stayed in the land. He did not go to Egypt. He waited on the Lord, and he planted crop. Now, why is this so strange? Were there no farmers in those days? There were, but Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were not farmers. They were shepherds, and they had cattle too. So planting crops was not their thing. Now, in time of famine, can you imagine? You never planted crops, and it's famine, and everyone advises you, listen, are you going in farming in time of famine? How odd is it? And on top of it, you're going to plant crops when no farmer plants in time of famine. That's exactly what Isaac did. And guess what? Not 30, not 60, 100-fold was his return on his crop. That was an exceptional miracle. So now what happened next? From verse 13 to 16, I'll read quickly. The man Isaac became rich, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. He had so many flocks and herds and servants that the Philistines envied him. So, verse 15, so all the wealth that his father's servants had dug in the time of his father Abraham, the Philistines stopped up filling them with earth. Verse 16, then Abimelech said to Isaac, move away from us, you have become too powerful for us. On account of his blessing, not only the crops was 100-fold, but everything he touched, the Lord blessed him, and his wealth increased in time of famine, so much so that it caused irritation amongst the Philistines. They start actually sabotaging him, closing his wells, and so on. And eventually, the very king Abimelech, that Isaac was under his protection, asked him to leave, basically, because he was too powerful to be amongst them. Now, this is amazing. It is an amazing story, but it doesn't end there. We go to verse 26 to 29. Isaac moves away, goes on his own, and every time he digs a well, the Philistines sabotage him still, even if though he did not live amongst them. In verse, 26 to 29, we read, meanwhile, Abimelech had come to him from Gerar. To who? To Isaac. Isaac moved away, and now Abimelech is visiting him with Ahuzath, his personal advisor, and Pico, I don't know how to pronounce that name, the commander of his forces. Isaac asked him, "Why have you come to me, since you were hostile to me, and sent me away?" Verse 28, they answered, "We saw clearly that the Lord was with you. So we said, there ought to be a sworn agreement between us and you. Let us make a treaty with you that you will do us no harm, just as we did not molest you, but always treated you well and send you away in peace. And now you are blessed by the Lord." Isn't this amazing? The very ones that sabotaged him, chased him away, envied him, now they looked for him, they found him, and they wanted peace treaty. They were afraid of him because they could see that he was blessed by the Lord. Now, this is something exceptional, brothers and sisters. In conclusion, what I'll point out to you here is we live in a time of spiritual famine. And soon it will be a natural famine too, man-made famine. So prepare. What is a spiritual famine? Well, persecution against believer is on the rise. The love of many will grow cold, said Jesus in the time, for describing the time that we live in. Righteousness is no longer the banner of conduct between people. Instead, all sorts of weird ideas have been thrown out into this world, and by the day, this world is becoming more evil. We believers are treated with contempt, and it is very difficult. They're making it difficult for believers to prosper. Now, that is the spiritual family. You may feel that you are persecuted at work, persecuted at home for believing in Jesus, or even ministry wise, or wherever you are, whatever you do, people and this world is hostile to you. Well, Jesus prepared us. We shouldn't be surprised. But guess what? With this story, the Lord is showing us, even in times of spiritual famine, He can bless us hundredfold. I want you to take hold of it. Now let's, for a final conclusion, remember what the Lord advised Isaac. Firstly, told him, stay in the land, meaning where the Lord placed you, stay there. If the Lord asked you to go somewhere and you didn't, then you're not in the land where the Lord wants you. Make sure you go where the Lord wants you to. Number two, do not go to Egypt. As you know, Egypt describes the prince of this world, the riches of this world, the empire of the world, or basically all these nations where people want to go, or the wealth. Let's maybe say power, pleasure, fame, and fortune. This is what the Egypt represents. The Lord is saying, don't go there. So if your business is struggling, do not take loan from Egypt, from the bankers, because you'll be their slave. Do not go on luxury living when you know you could not afford it. Do not go and do any excessive things, but stay close to the Lord. Stay repentant and where the Lord placed you. Number three, look for the Lord's direction. The Lord will show you when to plant, how to plant, what to plant. And I'm not speaking about farming here. I'm speaking about spiritual farming here. Each one of you is gifted by the Lord, and you need to wait on the Lord. You shouldn't go ahead by yourself. And finally, when the Lord shows you, plant crops. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please send me a comment, likes, whatever. Or I'd like to hear from you. Until my next video is released, you stay blessed. And I hope and pray the Lord will bless you richly. And may you labor and may you get a return hundredfold for the Lord to bless you for whatever He asks you to plant for His glory. Until next time, goodbye, brothers.